is also a federal crime. And if this bill is enacted, then there will be 2 additional circumstances added to the crime of animal fighting. That would be knowingly stealing an animal, intending it for use, for fighting, and also owning or using animal fighting paraphernalia for the purpose of engaging in animal fighting. These 2 become crimes as animal fighting. And it also increases the penalty for animal fighting from a Class C to a Class B felony when the person commits the offense and also mutilates the animal to further the offense. And it also changes somewhat the crime, or the crime of animal abuse, and it makes taking possession of an animal that was involved in animal fighting and then abandoning it knowingly, recklessly, or with criminal negligence as a circumstance that leads to a charge of animal cruelty in the 2nd degree, which is a gross misdemeanor. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff? All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. And now the very patient, gentle lady from the 14th District, Representative Mossberger. Thank you for waiting during all of that.
Of course. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. For the record, State Representative Gina Mossberger, and thank you, Chair Peterson and Senator Patton, also ranking member, for hearing this bill, and esteemed colleagues for being here into your lunch hour. So I'll be as brief as possible. So I have constituents that reached out to me and explained that there's an incident going on throughout my district, and then upon further research, you can find records back, especially in 2016, where large amounts of dogs have been missing from communities, and that we have this underground ring of people who are fighting dogs, and they're taking dogs and using them as bait in order to do these fights. The fights, they dig a 14 to 20 foot pit, they put the animals in, and then they have the animals fight, and they make money off of them. It's for gambling. So people had reached out and said that their pets were missing over and over. They reached out to the police, and the laws weren't strict enough to do anything. And then also, what I've had constituents call me as recent as a couple of days ago, that they were on their way home and they saw dogs in the ditch on the way home in the Toppenish and Wapato area that had their mouths duct taped and a slice on their sides that indicated they used them for bait. There's many, if you Google, it's heartbreaking to hear that the dogs are abandoned and their legs still tied from being bait, and they time how long it takes for the animal to die. So what we're doing, and you'll hear today from the Gambling Commission, you'll hear from the Humane Society, you'll hear from a constituent who brought it to me, one of the 2 that brought it to me and said, please help give police the power to do something about this, because we're missing our pets and they're using them for fights. So I commend the bill for your review. My biggest concern, well, many of the concerns, is that 71% of domestic violence victims have stated that this began with pet abuse, where we'll see cruelty to animals. And the FBI connects this cruelty to animals often in statistics with rapists and murderers who will start this habit when they're younger and then continue to get more and more satisfaction for more heinous crimes. So I'm just here to speak for animals today and hope that you'll help me. We did have an amendment. I appreciate Senator Patton looking into that. We had concerns yesterday, last minute, that said that they were concerned because we have a great group of enthusiasts who compete with these beautiful dogs, and they want to make sure some of the tools and the paraphernalia were something that they use, not in a bad way at all. They use them to strengthen the animals for competition, so they have better composition. And so we want to make sure we did an amendment to make sure that we covered them as well, to make sure that they weren't going to be charged with a crime for having a piece of paraphernalia such as a treadmill to use to get their dogs stronger for competition, but not to compete, to fight for money. So I commend the bill for your review and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you for staying over.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the prime sponsor? We thank you for staying into your lunch hour as well.
Thank you.
All right. We will bring up first a panel of pro folks, Jill Ketzenberg, Dan Paul, and Brian Constantine.
All right, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brian Considine, Legal and Legislative Manager for the Gambling Commission, on behalf of my chair, Bud Sizemore, and Director Dave Trujillo. We commend this bill to you and we support it. They'd be here today, but we have our public meeting just started about 5 minutes ago. Gambling and animal fighting go hand in hand. You aren't going to have one without the other, but it is very difficult to infiltrate. We are a limited law enforcement agency. We are the state agency responsible for breaking up illegal gambling activities, and our mission is to protect the public by keeping gambling legal and honest. And so sometimes when we come into situations where we know animal fighting is going to take place, gambling may not actually be happening, but things like the paraphernalia will be there. And there are knives that get attached and with roosters. There are implements that are used with dogs and roosters. There's drugs that are used with dogs and roosters. Their only purpose is to create this cruel blood sport and for it to have gambling related and animal abuse protections. So, and looking at the bill, because I saw some of the cons, the paraphernalia specifically deals with for purposes of animal fighting. So that should, from the prosecutorial side of it, from the charging side of it, mitigate any sort of the issues of those who may have these implements. But when we show up, it's very clear what it's being used for, and this just gives us another tool to help combat this terrible issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Peterson and members of the committee. Thank you for staying late as well. My name is Dan Paul. I'm the Washington State Director for the Humane Society of the United States, which is our nation's largest animal welfare and protection organization. Speaking in support of House Bill 1919, animal fighting is brutal. It occurs all throughout Washington State with alarming frequency. It glamorizes violence, and the animals who are forced to participate suffer immensely. Organized animal fighting almost always entails illegal gambling. More often than not, it's also associated with criminal activities such as prostitution, illegal firearm possession, and drug dealing. Because of the high monetary and legal stakes, animal fights are very well organized, and the animals used in these events are extensively trained and drugged for competition. This is an extremely tight-knit underground community, and strangers are almost never allowed to attend a fight, and often the fight location will move at a moment's notice. Because of this, it is nearly impossible for law enforcement to actually catch perpetrators in the act, and arrests typically require a several-month or year-long sting operation. In addition, animal fighters now exploit a loophole in Washington law by keeping animal fighting paraphernalia in one vehicle or one location and fighting animals in another. This makes it exceedingly difficult for law enforcement to prove these animals are being possessed for the purpose of fighting. So there's a wealth of information readily available to law enforcement to help them decipher between common training items that could be reasonably used in a home of dog owners or trainers, such as break sticks and treadmills, from the unique training or fighting paraphernalia possessed by a person actively engaged in organized animal fighting. Merely possessing one of these items, either with a legitimate purpose, without further evidence of animal fighting, is not illegal and wouldn't be illegal under this law. HB 1919 is written in a manner that is consistent with other possession laws, such as RCW 9A52.060, which criminalizes the possession of burglar tools with the intent to burglarize. In this law, someone cannot be prosecuted simply for having a crowbar in their car, but if that individual has a crowbar, a lockpick, wire cutters, and a ski mask, there likely would be enough evidence to charge them of the crime. Again, to be clear, only people who possess animal fighting paraphernalia with the intent to conduct animal fights or train animals for fighting would be in violation. Possession alone is not a factor enough. So thank you so much. Thanks for staying late. I appreciate the opportunity to testify, and please support this bill.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Hi, my name's Jill. Thank you for listening. I approached Gina. I've seen some stories recently in the paper and on Facebook of animals that have been abused horribly. There was a pit bull in Thurston County that was raped really badly. They wouldn't even give the details, and found hanging from a tree with her feet barely touching the ground. It was a guy that was babysitting the dog, and it had killed his lizard. So he murdered her. And then there was a dog in Yakima that was found. She was tied to a conservation block with her mouth taped shut, and some kids found her. She weighed like 30 pounds, and she should have been about 60. And one of our local rescues, the Yakima rescue, picked her up, and she's rehabilitated and has a great home now. But we really need to pass this and protect those that have no voice. We need to be their voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Do we have any questions for this panel? All right. Thank you very much for coming forward. We'll bring up our final panel, Dane McTerr and Scott Wheeler.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, and the rest of the committee. My name is Dane McTeer. Today I represent myself as a dog owner, an American Pit Bull Terrier dog owner. I was made aware of this bill about a week ago. Around the same time I tore my meniscus. So I was kind of out of the loop for a couple of days. I had a lot of concerns about the bill because not only in the state of Washington, but in the state of Tennessee, the state of New Hampshire, and several other states have similar bills, have either passed or attempted to pass with the exact same language. The amended bill, I had the opportunity and pleasure to speak with Representative Mossbrucker on the phone yesterday, or maybe the day before, I can't remember. But she assured me that some of the language out of the paraphernalia section would be removed. I believe that's section 4. Section 1-4. But in section 1F also states, what the gentleman in the middle just said, I don't remember his name, but owning, possessing, manufacturing, transporting equipment that's considered paraphernalia to dogfighting. I belong to a group of individuals who own these dogs, and we participate in dog sports, wall climb, treadmill race, lure course, weight pull, and we also have conformation shows. All the athletic events are all breed athletic events. The only thing that is American Pit Bull Terrier specific is the conformation dog shows. The tools they have listed as paraphernalia to dog fighters are synonymous with tools American Pit Bull Terriers own, especially those that attend these shows and go to these shows and participate in these athletic events. It's alarming to me because I've had animal control called on me just for the sheer fact that I had multiple pit bulls at my residence. Animal control showed up. I have no problem letting them see my dogs. There's no issue. I've been issued a hobby kennel license since there. There are a lot of people that own these dogs. And what also was brought to what I noticed is that this is stemming from Yakima, and the basis to push the bill, with some of them went over, none of those examples are dogfighting. They're all examples of animal cruelty. I don't condone animal cruelty. I don't condone dogfighting, but the dogfighting terminology is synonymous with American Pit Bull Terrier owner. There's no other breed out there that's being used for dogfighting, and we know that. In Yakima, there was a 30-year pit bull ban in effect. It just was uplifted in September of 2018. It's been 6 months since the pit bull has been back in Yakima. I live on this side of the state. I don't visit Yakima often, and that was one of the reasons that I didn't. Now I will feel comfortable going to Yakima with my dogs and my dog show crew and having a dog show in Yakima and hold these events just to give the general public a little bit more education. And I do think there's an education piece that needs to happen on 3 levels: the civilian level, the law enforcement level, and the lawmaker level. These things, I'm sure, can be hard for law enforcement to differentiate, but I can assure you there may be some people out there doing some bad things to these dogs, but there are also a group of people doing some great things with these dogs. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Please.
Hello, Chair. Thank you for listening to me today. My name is Scott Wheeler. I represent the American Dog Breeders Association and the Evergreen State American Pit Bull Terrier Club. I have had these dogs for over 35 years. My passion is unmeasurable. I have international grand champions. I have champions. I have therapy dogs that I take to nursing homes. I have rescue dogs. I've been rescuing these dogs for almost 30 years. I have rescue dogs and show dogs. I was just introduced to this bill as well. I wish I would have heard about it sooner before it got to this point. This bill on this board states preventing and responding to animal abuse. But the terminology in this bill, 1919, talks about dog fighting and dog fighting paraphernalia. If this bill is passed as it is written right now, I am technically could be charged illegally for having a braking stick. This is a braking stick. It is a piece of plastic. It is a tool. This is a responsible tool that every dog owner should have, including our police officers. I personally know canine officer dogs that will not out when the officers tell them to be, to out. And these dogs have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of training. If they had this tool, they could release that dog from whatever it's got a hold of in a matter of seconds with no damage done. I personally will never, ever, ever get rid of my tool to make sure that my animals are safe and other animals are safe in case of an accident. I had an incident at Capitol Lake. I was walking my dog. A person had their dog off leash. The dog came after my dog. The dogs got into it. If I did not have this tool, that dog would have been damaged. We host shows. I've been hosting shows for over 25 years in the state of Washington. We do treadmill races. A dog has to run 2 minutes, and whoever dog go the farthest wins the competition. Dogs don't have hands to grab things. They use their mouths. So in our Top Dog event, a dog has to go up to the top of the wall and grab a tug toy. We lower the dog down. The dog is in prey drive. The only way to get that dog off of that tug toy is to use a parting stick. Treadmills. People have been using treadmills forever. There's history of goats running on treadmills, horses. It's an exercise equipment. This bill scares me that if for some reason a neighbor was upset with me and they called the cops on me and they come to my house and I have treadmills, I have a braking stick, and a spring pole. A spring pole is a piece of rope hung from a tree where a dog grabs and he tugs on it. I have numerous videos of this. The animals love it. But this bill, even though it doesn't say pit bull, it is geared towards our community. And that scares me because we should have the right to own any breed we want. I've had these dogs, like I said, over 35 years. I've never had an incident because I am a responsible dog owner. To group us in a fighting category, you're going to jeopardize thousands of people nationwide, not just the state of Washington. The way the bill is written now, it's making it look like all American Pit Bull Terrier owners are dog fighters. I know nothing of dog fighting. I know nothing about razors on chickens. I think this bill is just too vague, and it needs to be reworded because if not, you're going to put law-abiding professional people in jeopardy of having this equipment. And we all know if you are charged with something, you have to prove you're innocent, and that costs money. And I know countless cases nationwide that people have lost their animals. They never went to jail because there was no proof, but they can't get their animals back. So this just scares me. And Representative, I forgot your name. Mossberger. I would like to personally thank her too for talking to me yesterday. I called many people and I did not get a good response, and she was the only one that got back to me, and I thank her for that. And I just hope everybody realizes that just because you own an American Pit Bull Terrier does not make you a dog fighter. And our registry is the third largest registry in the world. We've been around for over 110 years, and we now register all breeds of dogs. And that's all I'd like to say. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for the panel? All right, that'll conclude our public hearing on Substitute House Bill 1919, and that concludes our work for the day. We are adjourned.